Hurling on Off the Ball.
With Board Gosh Energy. Hurling. It's anyone's game.
You're welcome, Max. So, hell of a day yesterday on the hurling front. Headline news is that Cork won't see hurling again in June. They have a long, grim wait now until the Allianz League 2024. Limerick, meanwhile, I don't know if we're calling it a slump by their standards, but a bit of a dip by their standards, and they suddenly find themselves in a Munster final against Clare. Tipperary scratching their heads a touch, but they are through to a preliminary quarter-final against Offaly. Has Davy done enough to convince Waterford that he's on to a good thing is a question, and not to mention Wexford beating Kilkenny to avoid relegation to the Joe McDonagh. Dublin drew at Galway at Croke Park, so it's a Galway-Kilkenny Leinster final. Tommy Welch is with us. Good evening, how you doing?
Yeah, good evening, Joe.
Limerick 325, Cork 130. I saw Nicky English writing today. He said it was as good a hurling match as I've ever seen. Cork find themselves out. It's hard to be critical of their efforts. The margins here are just razor thin.
Yeah, I suppose it's a fair comment, Joe. When you talk one of the best games he's seen, or best games he's seen in a while, he didn't have too far to go, because the Joe McDonagh Cup final the day before was incredible. And that's not just trying to give them false plaudits or false, we were watching it at home, Joe, the McDonagh Cup final first, right? And we had an engagement on later on that evening inside in town, the 8 of us, and we were heading in a taxi into town, and we were getting out in Kilkenny City, and we were about 30 seconds away from the place we were going, and we had to stall the taxi for 10-15 minutes just to hear the rest of the McDonagh Cup final. It was on KCLR. Brendan Hennessy gave an amazing commentary on it, and that has to, for us to do that in a taxi inside in Kilkenny City, just goes to show the game that we were after watching first of all at home, and then just to hear it out, and amazing scenes. Watched it again then when I came home, and just amazing scenes. So when Nicky talks about a great game, there was great games all weekend and started on Saturday. But to go back to that Limerick Cork game, yeah, it was brilliant, because everyone was wondering, is this the end of the road for the 5-in-a-row Munster champions? Was their dream over? 4 in a row on the All-Ireland, could be going out of the championship. And suddenly then, when the game is on the line, their big stars, Gerard Hegarty was immense. He's had a tough time over the last couple of weeks, criticisms and false rumours, if you like. And I thought he was unbelievable. Without being in the flow, just winning balls, winning frees, laying off scores, catching balls at vital times. Diarmaid Burns was incredible, and Aaron Gillane, he's a Rolls Royce forward in the form of his absolute life. You can give it to him with the modern way into the corners, Joe, or you can give it in high into the edge of the square. Back to the Nicky Rackers, Christy Heffernan type stuff. Just launch it in and let the forward win his own ball. So amazing. And Seamus Flanagan, of course. Flanagan was absolutely incredible and has been all season for Limerick. So they're going through a tough time, but you'd have to say, are they now over that slump? And you could see it was like the weight of expectation, the weight of pressure lifted off all their shoulders, including their manager John Kiley afterwards. So I'd say the rest of the country beware. Yeah,
Dennis Walsh, he was obviously at the game, and he just noted that after the match that the Limerick players, they ate at the stadium, and then about 2 hours after the final whistle, he was writing, about a dozen of them set up in a circle of chairs at the side of the pitch, and they cranked up some music, he writes, on a speaker at the bottom of the Mackey stand. Within an hour, the congregation had swollen to nearly 30, sitting in the warm evening sunshine, chatting and laughing and messing, luxuriating in the familiar comfort of each other's company, like a crowd of Boy Scouts around a campfire, giddy from the goodness of the day. Now that sounds like a pretty happy camp who maybe are starting to feel a little bit good about themselves again.
Yeah, and that sounds amazing. I didn't read that piece, but that sounds amazing. And they say you should celebrate all wins, and this crew have never been afraid of celebrating their wins, and John Kiley's very much open about that, whether it's going down to the ice cream vans before training or whether it's afterwards. And that sounds amazing, to sit around in the glow, especially with the sun and the heat inside the Gaelic grounds, and all your I suppose expectations before was just to stay in the championship. Suddenly they couldn't even believe it, I'd say, when the whistle went and the words are filtering through that Tipperary after being beaten by Waterford, and they were in a Munster final. So I think absolutely, and they have the experience of not getting carried away with themselves either, Joe. If that was a team having never won anything before, you'd say maybe they should settle down a bit, you know, and relax and start thinking about the next day. But no, this crowd have been around, they know how to win as champions, and I'd say they're just heading into kind of a glorious 2 weeks now in preparation, because all the pressure will be on this Clare team coming up to the Munster final. Like they came, you know, in 2013 they were the young boy wonders, and it looked like they were going to dominate the hurling world and the hurling landscape for years to come, after winning so many under-21s in a row, and then winning the All-Ireland when they were all so young, but then failed, I'd say, to get team in Croke Park for many years, and haven't won a Munster championship. And they grew up with the stories and the tales of the 95 and the 17 winning Munster championships. So a Munster championship is very much, I'd say, not so much on a par with a Liam McCarthy, but it's not far off it. You hear Shawnee McMahon, Gerlach Nan, Dalo speaking about the times they won Munster championships. So I think all the pressure will be on Clare, and it's nice for Limerick to come in like that.
And a last word on Cork. What was striking is that they've been for many years accused of lacking a certain steel. They came back against Clare and Ennis. They came back against Tipperary. They came back yesterday from 7 points down. There wasn't a sense of rolling over or throwing in the towel when things got a bit sticky. Now, probably not good enough to get over the line, obviously, in those games as the other side of the story, but still, like Ryan O'Dwyer was on the show yesterday, and he was fairly certain that Cork, he said he thinks he'll win in All-Ireland in the next couple of years. The talent is there, and that they're on to a good thing. The downside is they have to wait, of course, until goes to 9 months at this stage, and that's a long wait.
Yeah, and it's like all year that they have turned the corner, and I suppose the commentary around them was, let's not judge them on the first game or the second game, let's see how to go over a couple of games.
Yeah.
I think they have proven that to their supporters, and more, I suppose, than most, they've proven it to themselves that they can withstand the pressure when things are going against them and stay in the game.
And where are they short, Tom, if they are short of something?
Well, sure, like they got Beppy, the All-Ireland champions, they're chasing the 4 in a row by 1 point. They got Beppy Clare, who'll be everybody's next probably favourite team, if you like, playing in the form of their life, and players in the probably peak years of their life, you know, between 25 and probably 30. And they only lost by a point there. They drew to Tipperary and they beat Waterford. So possibly maybe just a bit of luck, maybe, or, you know, they're a young team. They're coming. It just doesn't, Rome isn't built in a day. So like the talk surrounding this team from outsiders, even, like they were very easily criticised over all the years, and often probably they deserved it, but they're now, you know, receiving absolute praise from people about their character as opposed to their skill. They always had the skill, but I suppose why? You have to have the players, Joe, and I think Tim O'Matney going into that far line, Harnady's already there. I think Decky Dalton is a huge addition to that team, as regards just his physical size and his commitment and his desire to win the ball that you shouldn't be winning. That was always that. When it was flying, Cork would score 20-30 points, but yesterday the game wasn't flying and they still scored 30 points. So they have character, that team, and I think it comes from confidence as well in winning championships. Most of that team have won under 20s and under 21 All-Irelands, and you get confidence from being champions. And I think that's why the people, and Pat Ryan was there when they won them under 20 and under 21 All-Ireland. So that's why people have confidence in him and his team. So.
A quick one. You mentioned Gillane, Rolls Royce, and he's good at everything. He's crafty. It's a euphemism, and he's obviously just a phenomenal forward who can do everything. If you were setting out to mark him in a game and thinking about him, how would you go about trying to stop him?
Well, I definitely wouldn't be standing in front of him for a high ball, put it that way.
Yeah.
So, listen, you couldn't stand in front of him, because he'd, you know, when that ball's coming in, you're not going to get near, because whatever, whether you have your hurler hand in the way, it'll be gone out of it, and he'll have that ball caught. He's so strong, he's so physically strong. I think first of all you have to match him physically, and that's where Clare will be under a bit of pressure in the Munster final, and that Conor Cleary seems to be injured, whether he'll make it back or not. He was able to give him great battles over the last couple of games, because and you need help. Like great defences defend in numbers. They don't defend on their own, And if you're to mark Gillane, you're going to need plenty of help from your half back line, and probably your centre back who's trying to cover back with you. But how would you go about marking him? You'd want to get the ball before he does anyway. It was Georgie Latt, he was a great coach of ours. He said, he won't be good if he doesn't have the ball, and the great players you just can't, because they make a fool of you. And Gillane is just in that form at the moment, but high, low, the runs are brilliant as well, and a lot goes back to the management as well, and the way Connacht and Kiley have trained these guys. So I know I referenced it before, but he didn't touch a ball for 36 minutes, and I think could have been the league semi-final, and John Kiley was asked about it afterwards, and he straight away said the opportunity wasn't there to give him in the ball, which in my head means that if it's not man on man in there, Gillane is not going to get the ball, that they'll mess around with Morrissey to O'Donovan, to Will O'Donoghue, and then maybe Burns will pop the ball over the bar. So he is definitely, getting absolutely wonderful supply of ball from his backs and midfield when it does come in.
Waterford are a curious case. So they beat Tipperary 124 to 21 points. There is a sense Tipperary were a touch flat after their exploits in the previous round. Davy Fitzgerald spoke after the game, so I want to give you a sense of what Davy was saying. I'll play it to the listeners as well, obviously. And then what you'll hear afterwards is James Skehill and your former teammate Paul Murphy on the Hurling pod, and they're giving their reaction to Will about what Davy has to say. So have a listen.
You get cut the way we got cut after too bad. We played well against Limerick, should have won it. First half against Cork we were poor. Second half we matched them and had 3 goal chances, didn't take them. Against Clare we were matching them and had 12 wides therefore at half time. We had a poor second half that affected us. Like out of the whole championship, right? We 2 halves that were poor and we got punished badly sucked from, but to listen to some of the crap like this for the last few weeks is actually disgusting and annoying. So it is, to tell you the truth. I'm proud for the boys because the guys have trained so hard. They have worked so hard, and it's so annoying to see them being treated the way they've been treated. And I think they showed today what they're about, and fair play to them. Maybe last year they went in and there was nothing to play for, but every time we put on that Waterford jersey, I want them to play with that pride and that passion that they did there, and they're well able to do it. And I really want to thank the genuine people that backed us through the time. They mean the world, and they can see a glimpse of what we can do. And the only chance we have is to get people behind us, and there's enough of hardship in life without knocking. We need to stop that and get behind each other, and I think that's important. It's been a tough month, I can tell you. There's no one being harder than ourselves, but to my team and to my back room, I love them to bits, and they've given me everything.
When I heard that interview, and I listened to it a couple of times, right, because I was trying to see was there anything actually, was there a foundation for what he was saying? Was there something really relevant? Was it accurate? And it wasn't. Like he's playing the poor man's game again. He does this every year, when he gets knocked out of the championship, and he's kind of trying to deflect from his own inadequacies, if you ask me, right? And I'm sure the Waterford boys have put in a huge effort. I'm sure the backroom team are as well, but ultimately they didn't help themselves at all. So with these shenanigans of systems and setups and personnel and team sections, you name it, whatever you want to call it, right? There is a bit of blame on the players, absolutely. But like, you see people in Waterford, you saw people who played for years for Waterford, legends, and they were asking the same questions that we are. Waterford, albeit now a win today, right, might paint over some of the cracks, but Waterford were as bad, if not worse, than they were last year. I find it hard to believe his statements, to actually come on side of what he's trying to say, to try and even to emotionally connect to what he's saying as a man in his position. I just can't get around it. And I think if you're a Waterford person, whether you be in a professional capacity on the board or delegate, etc., it's time to look on you.
The one thing I just think is deflection tactics, to be honest, at the moment, because listen to what he was saying after the game, where people are unfairly, or so he's saying, unfairly zoning in him. No manager came out in the last, actually I wouldn't say ever, and said that I'm a winner, I'm here to win, and I win things. Basically paraphrasing, that's what he said at the start of the year. So you can't get upset when people turn around and say, why aren't you winning? You were the one who said it at the start of the year. I don't think anyone was unduly hard on any Waterford players, but like Davy at the moment is saying, it's disgusting what people are saying. I haven't seen anything in media that has been unduly, certainly not disgusting anyway. But again, it goes back to this thing of saying deflection tactics, saying things as if people are attacking the Waterford players or anything. It's not. and it's almost like a thing in a way to nearly scare lads from saying something, because you're nearly afraid that you'll be tarnished with that label, that you're going out and you're attacking or you're saying unfair things. It's just a pity that it appears to be honest coming out in an interview, and I just don't feel that honesty coming through. It's just deflecting again.
Paul Murphy, James Scale on the Hurling Pod, which is well worth a listen. The lads were in fine form yesterday with Will, so you should download that. So, Tommy Welch, the boys are not buying what Davy is selling. Where are you?
It's the first time I heard that interview now. He's emotional, I think, there, Joe, in fairness. I think Davy has always, he speaks with his heart on his sleeve. I think he was genuine. I think he's hurt there, sounding by that interview. Like, we know the Waterford public and ex-players came out criticising him during the Munster campaign. He sounds hurt. He does. He sounds hurt, in fairness. So I probably... that's what I think, just first time listening to it there.
Yeah, and so whatever about how he's dealing with the media, and that's, he's got a way of doing that, and it is familiar down the years the way he talks about the abuse he's getting, and I'm sure it's true to some extent or other, but I'm not quite sure it's disgusting, certainly in the media that I've seen. Parking all that, how would you assess the job he's done with a view to, does he warrant a second year?
Yeah, well, like, just on the criticism side of it, I think when you get involved in a management setup, you have to expect it nearly, bar you win. And even when you win, you're going to get off the probably parents or family members of players that you didn't start or bring on in the final. And like, I remember saying that at home, I was involved here for years with the sevens, the young lads, sevens and nines, and people might think you're doing a great job. And I was just saying to at home, I said, just when I was getting involved with the older age groups, I said, now just get ready for the criticism, because you have to start dropping lads now and picking teams. And I said to them at home, just don't take it personally, you can't. And that would have been the advice I would have received off people, that when people are mad with you over a team, they mightn't be mad with you personally. Don't take it personally. It's usually someone belonging to them is hurt by it, whether it's their own child or whether it's their own brother or family member or friend that's after being dropped or not picked, or maybe you weren't getting on with. So I think when you're involved, first of all, in the management setup, you cannot take it personally, even though it might sound personal and it might come out personal at the time. I think when the dust settles down and maybe you aren't involved in that team anymore, or in a few years' time, you're all friends again, So that'd be the first thing I said. The second thing is how has he done?
Yeah, with the view to next year, like, is your sense he warrants? Yeah, you know what, that last game, that win, go again next year. Did you see enough from Waterford under Davy?
Well, what I would see is that Waterford asked him to come back. So whoever was trusted with the decision making of doing that decided that was a good idea to ask Davy Fitz to come back. So I think you absolutely deserve 2 years, no matter how he has done this year, bar he's not putting in the effort. But we all know with Davy, he'll put in 1,000,000%. So I definitely think, Joe, that the Waterford board, whoever appointed him, needs to be tough, be strong. If they might have to, maybe if they have things to get off their chest with him, no problem. But they're the guys who trusted him to take on the job.
And you're welcome back. We're just going to try and reconnect with Tommy. Technology has let us down. Make us pop back in. I think Tommy was on the cusp of saying there, if you've offered Davy 2-year arrangement, contract, I'm not sure what the terminology is in GA, then he deserves a second year. That win yesterday counts for something for sure.
It does. It shows that the players, that like, they were down a lot of players yesterday as well, and it shows you that they were playing for him as well. I have to say that when Colin Bonner only got 1 year a tip, there was a lot of people giving out and thinking it was very unfair, and it remains unfair. But Liam Cattell has turned tip around yesterday, notwithstanding. So there is, if there was a better option there, I think people do have to be ruthless. But I would think that unless something changes in the next few months, Dave, he'll be there next year.
Tommy, I think, is back with us. You there, Tommy?
Yeah, sorry about that, Joe.
No, you're all right. Davy Fitz cut your Wi-Fi, I think.
I need to get the new fibre stuff, I think, Joe.
I think you're on the cusp of saying there Davy deserves a chance at year 2. So might, before the clock really comes against us, get your thoughts on Leinster. We had Kilkenny beaten by Wexford 4-23 to 5-18. So extraordinary kind of get out of jail moment from Wexford. And then Galway drew with Dublin. I saw James Scahill last night on the Hurling Pod. He was saying the first half was about as bad as Galway had played in recent times. So the bottom line is we have a Galway-Kilkenny final and we have Wexford plucking things out of the fire.
Yeah, and I think it was a fierce missed chance for Dublin, Joe. They had a great chance of getting to Leinster final. You go back to Alex Ferguson and Manchester United when they were winning titles. They might be out of race for the Premier League. Suddenly they make a big thing out of win the Carabao Cup or win the FA Cup or win the Charity Shield. Every cup they win was huge to him. And that's why he bred into his team. Winning trophies, it's kind of addictive, and people learn to love winning, and they'll stay striving to train harder and harder. And I thought it was a massive chance for Dublin to get to a Leinster final and win a trophy. And they'll be savagely disappointed, I think. They were 12 points up against Galway, playing poorly, and they were getting a lot of luck on the day. It seemed like one of those days. But fair play to Galway. I said to the fella beside me at the time, when they went probably 10 points down, I said, this Galway team, since Shefflin came on board, they don't give up. That no matter what happens, there always seems to be a puck of a ball in it near the end. And they did that in last year's All-Ireland semi-final against Limerick. Limerick looked like they were going to strive on and win the match by 5 or 10 points. But they brought it back down to a puck of a ball again. So this Galway team has character, and you get that from training hard and probably picking a team on training. So Galway, definitely, I think that will stand to them. As for Blow in Wexford Park, was just a magical occasion, I'd say, for all involved.
Yeah, it wasn't anywhere to be seen, unfortunately. It wasn't on GAA Go, it wasn't on TV, so we're working off reports. On the Leinster final, people, I'm sure, remember, end of April, we had the draw between Kilkenny and Galway. Galway with a last-minute point, Declan McLaughlin off the bench to level things up. So there's really not much here between Kilkenny and Galway. Would you have a strong sense either way how that final's going to go? And like, how important is it?
Well, it's very important because you get straight through to an All-Ireland semi-final. If not, you'll probably end up playing if you lose that, you'll probably end up, if you come through, playing the winners of the Munster final, So I think it's very important to win it, because you go straight through into an All-Ireland semi-final and you watch everybody else probably take lumps out of each other in the previous round. So I think it's very important. But I think Kilkenny suffered a few injuries. Massey Keown went off injured. Adrian Mullen went off injured with a bad injury by all accounts. And so did Mikey Butler. I'm not sure the extent of the injuries to Mikey and Massey, but they're 3 big injuries. You have Adrian Mullen in the form of his life, and then Massey is probably at the peak of his powers as well in the full forward line. And Mikey Butler is the best man marker, that we have. So I think them 3 injuries and how we recover from them could tell a lot coming into that Leinster final. And I spoke a few minutes ago about titles, Dublin winning titles. Like even Jose Mourinho go back, they won the Europa Conference last year. They're now back in the Europa League final this year. Like, winning titles means everything. It doesn't matter what it is, and I think it'll be important for Shefflin to try and bring a title back to Galway as well. So
yeah, Galway haven't won Leinster in about is it 4 years now, and obviously you have a new manager in Kilkenny, so 2 young managers eager to get silverware. You've mentioned the caveat, or the carrot rather, of dodging some tough games for the winner. So yeah, this should be a really good occasion. It'll be full-blooded.
Oh yeah, it'll be fantastic, because when you have young teams in the Galway, they're wondering how good are they, and they're all following. They have great faith in what they're doing, because in fairness, you love when you bring on young players. He brought them on against Kilkenny in the Whiteheath battle down in Nolan Park, and it was those young players that came on. Conor Whelan went off, Conor Cooney went off, 2 stars that you would probably depend on in the final few moments. He's not afraid to bring them off and bring on the young fellas, and that always gives enthusiasm and energy to a crowd when they see good young players coming in. And that's what this Galway team have, and they'll be going in with the low expectations, Joe, of performing so poorly against Dublin in that first half that there won't be major pressure on probably either team. So listen, Croke Park is probably a funny one regarding an occasion. Like, I've been at so many Munster Championship games now since retiring, and Leinster Championship, and playing in them as well. Very hard to create a huge atmosphere, as you know, in Croke Park. So it won't be that hell for leather type atmosphere that you see below, whether it's in Thurles or in Páirc Uí Chaoimh, where they'll sell it out. Like in the Gaelic grounds the weekend, you had 41,000. The place was absolutely humming. You bring 41,000 to Croke Park, you know, the atmosphere is still only okay. But listen, so you won't have that. But I would expect a brilliant game.
It sounds like you'd take it out of Croke Park, would you?
I wouldn't. For atmosphere, it'd be amazing, but it was only when you retire then you appreciate how great it is to play up there. Like that's the dream since you're 4 years of age. You see the ads on the television. Like, remember the young fella rolling around the bed, changing positions in the bed, dreaming of being an Oz or dreaming of playing in Croke Park. Like, that's the dream. Like, you look at the Joe McDonagh Cup final the weekend, right, the crowd was very small at it, but the scenes were just amazing. Like, to win a match in Croke Park is just out of this world. You only get so many times to play in it, and to play there is part of the dream. I remember in the club when we won the All-Ireland semi-final, the intermediate, like, it was just the greatest thing knowing that players that weren't used to playing it and families were going to go up and experience the Croke Park occasion, the Croke Park atmosphere, just the feeling of history. Like, you know, Christy Ring, Jimmy Doyle, Mick Mackey, all the greats that lauded that place, and you're going to be part of that now. So for that reason, no, I wouldn't take it out. I'd forsake the atmosphere for that.
Fair enough. Well, listen, we'll chat to you about that game in advance of it in due course. Tommy, thanks a mil. Cheers.
Great. Thanks, Joe.
All right, Tommy Welch with us on the line. And our hurling coverage, again, is with thanks to Bord Gáis Energy. They've teamed up with Off the Ball to uncover stories highlighting the positive impact hurling has had on people's lives. For full competition details, you can visit bordgaishenergy.ie/home/BGE-GAA. So check that out. We'll take a short break, news headlines, and then Monday Night Rugby.